Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Again, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's supported the channel, everyone who's liked, shared, subscribed. Everything's been absolutely phenomenal. Kind of been blown away by it. Wasn't really doing it for any kind of following, etc. I was just trying to share some learnings and messages for people to try and help those who might be struggling or who are kind of going through an awakening. And looking for a few answers. Thank you. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, please. It'd be fantastic. Today I'm going to talk about who you are, or who I am. Who it is that we refer to when we say I, me, myself, you. Those labels that we have. Who really is that? Who is it? What is it we're referring to? What is I suppose is a better way of putting it. And delve into the parts of our being, the parts of who we are, the human parts, as well as the energetic parts and the consciousness. So we start off, before I discovered a lot of this stuff and went through kind of this journey, someone had said to me, who are you? My first response would have been, well, I'm Matt. We look at that and we think, okay, but that's not my full name. I've actually got 4 names because my parents gave me 2 middle names, but that's another story. So, am I a combination of just a bunch of letters? If I changed my name, would that make me a different person? Would that change who I was on the inside? No, it's just a label. It's just a label that we give ourselves in order for other people to contact us as individuals, identify us as an individual, I suppose. It's a really funny concept when you think about it. It's just a label like this, a pen. But if you called it something else, it would still be exactly what it is. It doesn't matter what the label is. So let me do that a bit deeper. So let me say, live recording. So then we say, if we're not, if that's not who we are, then who am I? And my response probably would have been something along the lines of, I'm a 35-year-old man, white, British, etc., etc. Is that really who I am? Is that, that to me describes the physical aspect of me. The body, I suppose. Is that who I am? If I, for example, 10 years ago, I wasn't a 35-year-old man. But I'm pretty sure when I looked in the mirror, it was still me that was looking out and seeing the reflection. It was still me that was viewing the world. And if someone, God forbid, and that hasn't happened, but if I lost an arm, for example, would that make me less of a person? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's not what makes up who I am. That's kind of, I look at it, that's the body. When I'm not the body. If something happened to the body and the consciousness, etc., was still there, I'd still, I'm pretty sure if the mind was still there, etc., I'd still be me. I'd still be me looking out. So I see the body as, you have these VR sets now for gaming. The body's like a massive VR set. It allows us to experience our senses. It allows us to have eyes to experience the physical world, smell for the physical world, touch, taste. All the senses. It allows us to experience this physical world. It allows us to interact with matter, with form, And when we get into this, I like to call this, different people talk, some teaching, some spiritual teaching, call it the body, etc. I quite like science, so I'm going to call this the physical. So the first aspect of this is this physical part of us. I'm going to put that, I'm going to write that down. I'm just going to draw a little diagram. So this is physical. It's our starting point. But that's not who we are. That's a tool that allows us to experience this world. It's a vessel that allows us to interact with everything around us because we live in a physical world. So if that's not who we are, then we have to ask ourselves, okay, who am I? Again, who am I? And I could say, well, I could say lots of things. I could say I'm an IT analyst. I could say I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son. All these different things. And these are just kind of like labels, or that the mind is just kind of given to our an identity that we've given ourselves. And you know, other things like, oh, well, I'm kind, or you know, I'm reliable. They're just labels. You know, these are interpretations of that our mind. And this is the second part of us that the mind has put on us from past experiences. It's developed these labels, these concepts of what we should be, or who we are. So we really have to think, you know, that's the second part of us is the mind. Again, I like some people call it the mind. I like to call it metaphysical. This is the metaphysical part of us, because when I talk about the mind, I'm not just talking about the thoughts that we experience up here. It includes all that energetic stuff as well. It includes the heart. The heart is actually very like the mind. I won't go into it today, but they have discovered that there are neurons just like in the brain that are actually in the heart. You know, the heart can think essentially, which is crazy. That's a topic for another day. Yeah, all that energetic stuff, the chakras, all of that spiritual, metaphysical, energetic parts of us that allow us to interact in an energetic function. And it's still kind of it's the form and the matter in the physical world is like it's a very low frequency energy. Everything's energy. Everything around us is formed of energy. It's like very, very low frequency, which makes it appear solid and have substance to it. When you get up to the things that we can't sense, you know, it's still energy. For example, a radio wave. You know, we can't see it. We know it's there because when we fiddle with a tuner, it picks it up. It spits out a signal which catches it, and I'll go into that in another video as well. But yeah, the science behind that, you know, we know it's there. TV signals are the same. You know, scientists are recently starting delving into telepathics and the gamma thought, the gamma frequencies, which we can't see. You know, it's all that above the physical that we know is there. We can prove it's there, and we can now start measuring some of this stuff. But it's not physical. And so that the mind, or the metaphysical part of us, that's what I look at. That's another tool. It's another tool that allows us to interpret that side of the world, the metaphysical. You know, the bits that we can't necessarily see or touch. And it's also got this great link with the physical. Sorry, get the spelling right. So yeah, so it's here. It's obviously got this fantastic link with the physical world. Sorry, whereby it has the ability to analyse. It has the ability to take a sense or an input, and it's a thought generating machine. It's got the ability to generate thoughts and answers around what the sensory inputs, which is phenomenal, like amazing. We don't have computers we haven't invented computers that powerful, yet we have one in us. It's like greatest personal computer ever built. And yeah, so it allows us to interpret all these emotions and the feels. It allows us to really collate that information. It's fantastic, really. So we have this kind of link from the physical to the metaphysical. What's happened is, let's go into the third part first. So the reason we know that we have this metaphysical part of us is because we can experience it. You know, how do I know I'm not their thoughts? Because I'm aware I'm not there. I'm aware they are there. Anyone who's meditated for a substantial amount of time will know that when the thoughts stop, I'm still there. You know, if I was my thoughts, if I was the mind, and that stopped, I wouldn't be in existence. But I'm still there. I'm still aware. I just don't have these thoughts. So, what is that awareness? And that's what we call different philosophies call them different things. Some people call it the soul. Some people call it the spirit. When it comes to Christians, it's generally referred to as the Holy Spirit, a part of God part of us, that kind of thing. I like to call it the non-physical, because it's not a thing. You know, I refer to it sometimes as the I am, because it simply is. You can't really put anything after it. You can't put anything after I am, because it then gives it a label. Once you give it a label, it becomes a thing, and it is literally no thing. It's not a thing. It's the awareness, the observer, the witness. It's what it allows us to experience the body and the mind. So that's how we have here. We have the non-physical aspect of us. So that non-physical aspect, the mind will feed back into that. We can experience the mind, and we can witness that. So we have this process. It comes into the physical, into the metaphysical. Anything generated in the metaphysical can actually be experienced by the non-physical, the observer, the Atman, the indwelling being. You know, this is essentially who we are in essence. If you take away everything else, this is what we're left with, the soul. And these principles is what makes up what we like to call, what people call a spiritual awakening, or awakening, or ascension, is learning that we are not our mind, we're not our body, we are in fact this consciousness that experiences things. They're both tools. The mind is like a laboratory. You know, we allow it, we give it a problem, and it comes back with a solution. It collects data, memories, all that kind of stuff, and it feeds back. Right, I need to solve the problem. Solved. You don't solve it. Unfortunately, through evolution or possibly devolution, however you want to look at it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. This is just how I understand things. If this doesn't resonate with anyone, that's cool. This is just how I understand things, and I'm hoping it will help someone else. But over time, the human has identified with the mind, overly identified with the mind. And we've given it this problem. The problem is, I want to feel good all the time. So that heart that we've got in us, I look at it like the orchestra of life. It plays tunes. Sometimes it plays really, really high tunes, and we class that as happy. And sometimes it plays these like really low tunes, and we class that as sad. The mind, because we're given this job with the mind of everything being, I want you to make everything okay. The mind's then, it's kind of over time giving everything labels. It's labelled everything it lives in duality. It's as everything's good or bad or right or wrong, and it's labelled all these things. And we then said, right, I only want to experience the good things. And the only way the mind has kind of gone about doing that is trying to make everything on the outside, all the external world, all the form, all it's got access to, make everything that comes in okay, so that I can be okay on the inside. It's an impossible job. Can't be done, because all these kinds of things are coming in. Nothing will comply with the patterns we have in us that tell us whether something is good or bad, right or wrong. The mind has made these standards. It said, right, I like blue, but I don't like red. Someone else says, I like red, but I don't like blue. You know, just that personal computer who's come up with all this analysis and told us what's good and what's bad, what we like, what doesn't, what makes the heart go up and what makes it go down. And then we said, well, don't let it go down. And it's been, that's with those, you know, when I talk about the mind and the thoughts, I'm talking about not the thoughts that we make our mind have. You know, if you sit there right now and you tell your mind to say 1, 2, 3, it will do it. I'm talking about the ones that we don't ask it to do, that chucks in, you know. Sometimes it argues with itself, for example. You'll be driving down the road, driving down the road, and the mind goes, oh, maybe you should stop off for a drink. And then it says back to itself, oh no, I don't think so. No, because you're going to be late. Oh yeah, but you know, I really need a drink. Well yeah, but you know, you really want to be on time. And that backwards and forwards, it was like having 2 people in the back of the car having a conversation. And being aware of that is quite funny now. I don't buy into that stuff, and I don't get caught up in it, or I try not to get caught up in that stuff. But that's where all the suffering comes from. You know, when we talk about suffering as when we label things good or bad, that's all from the mind. It's all from this, and I'm not saying you need to get rid of the mind, because the mind is, like we said before, is a fantastic tool. But this is slightly different. This is the incessant chatter that causes the suffering. So how do we get around that? What is it that's missing? And that's that awareness that we are this soul. The soul's like the programmer of the game, if you look at it that way. If you look at life as or the outside as a world, it's this game. It's the scientist in the laboratory. If you look at the mind as a laboratory that can analyse stuff, you're the scientist that sits there and listens to it. You know, you're the one that listens to those thoughts and can choose. And this is the big difference. Can choose whether to pay attention to them, or whether not to pay attention to, whether to pay attention to something different. Those identities we've given ourselves, there's a lot of depression and anxiety comes from when those identities are stripped away, because you lose that label the mind's put on. And what happens then? Who am I now? You know, if we transcend that, we are a soul. The label is just from the mind. That's where the peace comes from. One of my favourite spiritual teachers, he said the mind is where the soul goes to hide from the heart, which kind of like rang really true with me. So, you know, when the heart is playing something that we have judged as bad, that goes to the mind to try and cover it up and to try, I don't want to be here, I want to go somewhere different. That really rang true for me. And he also says, he starts a lot of his lectures with, are you in there? Are you still there? Are you in there? You know, he's talking to the soul. Are you in, you know, behind the body, behind the mind? Are you there? It's really good, because, you know, 99% of people say, yeah, I'm here. I understand that. And that's what I'm hoping someone might get out of this video. So how is it we get around this process whereby all the physical world comes in through this mind? It gets judged, it gets analysed, it gets labelled, and then we experience that. And that's where this identity has come on, because we're so identified with that. Well, it's simple. There's an element here I'll do it at a dotted line, whereby this triangle, this 3-part triune being, or the Holy Spirit, or whatever you want to call it, is multifaceted. It's, you know, this physical world. This is when we talk about presence. physical world can be experienced directly by the soul. When we look away from the mind, that chatter of the mind, we can experience, feel the breath, hear the birds tweeting, any of that stuff. Focus on what is real without judgment. And it takes time, it takes effort. You learn how to do that, but it's possible. Without that judgment, everything is just fantastic, just as it is. It's just beautiful. That's what we can do. And yeah, there's still plug into play. We still have this process here and this process here, because we need that. That's how we function in the physical world. You know, we don't get rid of the mind, we just turn it back into the tool. You don't turn it back into the kind of ruler or who rules who we are. We turn it back into the tool, what it was originally intended for. So yeah, I hope that kind of explains a little bit more my experience with this. And this is just my experience. When I've been practicing, aligning with the soul, focusing on presence, focusing on breath as much as possible, I found more peace than I've ever had in my life. A lot of people who know me before, I was quite angry before, very up in my head. Couldn't handle emotions at all, except anger. That seemed like a good emotion to that. It was the easiest one to access. But through experiencing this, you know, I find joy. And when I talk about joy, I don't mean pleasure as such. Pleasure is something that the mind gets from the external. Joy is different. Joy comes from the inside. And it's satisfying. It's completely satisfying. It's not that when you find it, it's good for a little bit, but then it goes and you have to go and find something else. It's just this. This is my experience. It's just this overwhelming, constant flow of joy. And it's knowing who you are that gets to that. Knowing who you are. You don't have to watch what the mind's saying. You can look away from the mind. You can focus on what is real in the world without judgment. Being clear on who you are, or as we said at the beginning of the video, who you is. A Course in Miracles, which is a fantastic book, it's another spiritual teaching. The core of its teaching, and I'll read this to you. The core of its teaching says this. It says nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. You know, what that's saying is nothing real, who you really are, the world around us, can be threatened. It can't be taken away. It's eternal. It's energy. Nothing unreal exists. Without judgment, projections into the future, memories of the past, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just a figment in the mind, in the metaphysical side of us. So nothing unreal exists, and herein lies the peace of God. Herein lies peace. Herein lies salvation. Herein lies just Zen, whichever you follow. You know, the Bible says the kingdom of heaven is within you. That's what it's referring to. And it says, one of the things it says is that I'm not particularly religious in this way. I just like some of the parables. I like the way it's worded. It says, die to be reborn. What does that actually mean? It means die of the ego, of the mind, and be reborn as to who you really are, the observer of that. And the mind goes back to being the tool that you can use. And wow, when you start detaching from that as the ruler, and you start using it as a tool, the power that comes, the energy that comes from that is phenomenal. It's amazing. So yeah, I hope that gives people a bit of information. If I don't know if I've missed anything, again, I'll do these in one shot. Don't really make many notes, so I've tried to cover as much as I can. If anything doesn't clear to anyone, please drop me a comment. If you liked it, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Again, I'll say it all the time. Helps it get out to people. Helps it get to people who might benefit from this information, these theories. And thank you for joining me. Please share with anyone you want. And like I've said all the time, sometimes this stuff won't resonate with you, and that's fine. You know, just because this is what I see as my truth doesn't mean that's what you have to see as your truth. It's not making anyone right or wrong. It's just speaking from my truth, and that's okay if that's different to whatever you have. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.